When the trailer for The Munsters was released this summer, I, like many others, found myself compelled to comment, if only to address a detail that a lot of people seem to be missing: the fact that despite the movie and trailer opening with the retro Universal Pictures logo, the movie was actually the product of Universal 1440.
Now what's wrong with that?
Why, I think it's disgraceful. Beneath the family's dignity.
They dig up dormant Universal IPs and commission direct-to-video sequels with limited budgets. These movies are usually filmed in foreign countries or wherever there is a tax break.
For business reasons.
They are sequels in name and therefore marketability only. I was surprised that they greenlit a Munsters project though, considering another branch of Universal that makes quality work, NBC, had recently announced plans for a new Munsters TV show. And it's even more surprising that they went with a relatively established writer-director to helm.
Quiet everybody, please! Jeff, can you pull... Quiet!
Instead of one of their usual 1440 directors. I mean, all of these movies were directed by the same guy.
Well, that's showbiz.
It's these elements combined that I feel ultimately doomed this project from the start. You have a studio not concerned with quality or originality, giving a writer-director known for making gritty R-rated horror films the keys to a beloved family comedy franchise.
I was looking for the Dirty Two shot, that was what we just discussed.
Saying the production overseas with a foreign crew.
Yeah, precis. But jó, Gyuri, amiután befejezted, amikor már ráforgunk, ott tegyél bele a...
Persze, azt csináljuk.
Yeah,
Okay, I wasn't sure.
What could go wrong? But in a weird way, I still respect Rob Zombie for trying. It's kind of like when a kid draws characters from a show that they love from memory, but it's just really poorly drawn even though you can tell they tried their hardest, and you're still somewhat proud of them and have to hang it on the fridge to display anyway. That's kind of this movie in a nutshell.
Jealousy is the stinkweed in the garden of life.
First, let's talk about the good, as sparse as it is. The location scouting in Budapest is just fantastic. The Count's home was shot at a real ancient castle, and the lab where Herman is created was shot in an abandoned power plant. These locations really give the Transylvania portions of the movie such an authentic feeling. The use of purple and green colors really adds to this as well. Stylistically, the movie is way more similar to Munster Go Home than the original series. It's impossible to replicate that warm, saturated look of Technicolor when shooting on digital, but I give them credit for at least trying to make the movie look interesting visually, even if they take it to the extreme in other shots. Speaking to Variety last month, Rob Zombie said that Universal 1440 would not allow him to shoot the movie in black and white, so he instead chose to go the complete opposite direction and really highlight the color.
Perfect, let's shoot! It's not gonna get any better.
The Munsters' iconic house at 1313 Mockingbird Lane, though it appears way too late in the movie, also looks better than it has in any Munsters remake project. It's lovingly recreated, and the attention to detail is just great.
If you think it looks wonderful now, just wait until we get finished with it.
I can't wait to start poking around the backyard. Who knows who I might find?
Though the surrounding houses just look cheap and nothing like the American suburb they were going for, mostly because it's built on a vacant lot somewhere in Budapest. Wait, was that a train? They built the set next to a running train?
Perfect, let's shoot! It's not gonna get any better.
Production design aside, there are some inspired casting choices. Of the main cast, Daniel Roebuck steals the show.
What? Ah, always forget one ingredient. One simple ingredient.
He's the only member of the main trio that comes across like he has any knowledge of the character he's portraying and reverence for the actor that originally portrayed him.
Why don't you ask Magna Cum Dum Dum over there what we're gonna do? He's the one who got us into this mess.
But he also adds in just enough of his own inflection and charm to make this version of Grandpa Munster, called the Count here, feel fresh.
This is a bunch of cornball hooey. Listen, Herman, you may have hoodwinked Lily with your folksy gibberish, but it ain't working on me.
And you can tell he's just having so much fun in the role.
I just like being where they make movies.
I heard you're a pretty huge Munsters fan, and you also met Al Lewis. Is that correct?
It is true. Met and knew him. He was a heck of an entertainer, boy. And what would the Munsters have been without he and Fred?
You know, Herman, there's a lot of ham in you.
Don't blame me, they had to use what was available.
Likewise, Sylvester McCoy is great as the Count's assistant Igor.
I need you to do that thing you do. Come on, hurry, please.
I'll get those vertebrae as straight as my great-aunt Elga's knickers.
The parts with him and Roebuck are honestly the best in the movie.
Yeah, boy, look at that. That's what I say.
I'm really a leg man myself. Preferably two, if possible.
In the original series, Igor was Grandpa's bat.
Igor, how about you and I having a game of checkers, huh? Oh, you got a date, too. No, Igor, you got no heart.
And the movie has a really fun explanation of how Igor ended up that way.
I'm getting on a bit in age, and I could suffer from the side effects of the transformation.
It's one of Rob Zombie's interpretations of Munsters lore that really works. The performances of the rest of the supporting cast, such as Cassandra Peterson, Catherine Schell, and Richard Brake, really homage the style of over-the-top acting in the original series. But there are just way too many supporting characters for any of them to fully shine. Rob, as the sole screenwriter, is just trying to do way too much with this story. One, he wants to homage the original series and characters, even shoehorning in those that only appeared in one episode of the show, such as Tin Can Man and Zombo.
He's a phony! He's a phony! Attaboy!
Two, he wants to add to the lore with his own interpretations and ideas.
You know what that does? It really grounds your face with the eyebrows. Oh yeah, it takes the makeup down one level to looking slightly more realistic.
Yeah.
Well, Herman, they don't have to overdo it.
Sometimes these choices work, though most of them are just pointless and out of place. For instance, briefly in the film, and for no apparent reason, Herman becomes a successful rock star, despite never having hinted he had any desire to do so.
Working in a mirror factory is something I could totally see myself doing.
It sounds almost as bad as Herman singing in the shower.
I guess it mainly happened so Rob had an excuse to dress him in his Hot Rod Herman attire. He even has his own record and plays to crowds of people. But his music career is abandoned after this scene and never really mentioned again. 3, he wants to cast as many of his friends and frequent collaborators as possible, regardless of whether they're actually right for the parts. I'm mostly talking about 2 particular performances here, but they're the performances at the center of the film. Jeff Daniel Phillips as Herman, and Sherry Moon Zombie as Lily.
Lily, I've been meaning to ask you something.
Oh, yes, Pookie Bear.
Last time I saw a hand that big, it was in a butcher's window.
While Daniel Roebuck's love of the Munsters comes across in every one of his scenes, Sherry and Jeff's performances make me question if they've ever seen an episode of the Munsters.
Oh, Hermie.
After you, my dear.
Jeff seems to be homaging John Shuck's Herman from the Munsters today more than anything Fred Gwynne ever did.
I get a lot of hot tracks up in this noggin.
I couldn't help myself. It was my first time in a supermarket.
I know Fred Gwynne's cadence and voice is not something easy for another actor to replicate. Even in Here Come the Munsters, Edward Herrmann doesn't quite nail the voice.
Part of me might be.
But he captures the charm and lovability that Fred Gwynne brought to the role.
He's got a point, Lily.
Here, I just have no idea what Jeff was trying to do.
That's one of the reasons.
And even more importantly, why Rob Zombie, a self-proclaimed Munsters fan, didn't realize that the performance was so off-key.
I swing her in the in crowd. I'm no Bobby Darin. She's gonna see right through me and know I'm just a big boob.
It's like Jeff didn't have the heart to tell Rob that the script wasn't working, and Rob didn't have the heart to tell Jeff that his performance wasn't working. I mean, they seem like great guys, and that they're having a lot of fun in the behind-the-scenes footage, but this is just a risk you take when you cast your friends. In the original series, Herman could be a buffoon at times, but underneath it all was a lovable guy. He sometimes made bad decisions, but it was just because he wanted what was best for his family, and he was willing to stop at nothing to correct those wrongs.
What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character.
Lily, your lover boy Herman is getting lonely.
This Herman has none of that. He's not really childish, but rather petty and mean-spirited.
Now. You don't want me to get tough.
And then there's the voice. When you can make out what he's actually saying.
What night were you thinking about? As soon as you appeared in my life. Homeliest people I've ever seen.
It's just so grating to listen to.
I thought you liked it!
Oh, yeah. He's got a date. Marry me?
Yeah, I do. She said yes! She said yes! Baby, I got you. Baby.
Even the character's iconic laugh is replicated so poorly here.
It's not gonna get any better.
Even the look of the character doesn't feel true, as he spends most of the movie in this Son of Frankenstein-inspired fur tunic. He finally dons Herman's iconic outfit in the last 15 minutes. It's just such a strange choice, especially considering that Rob Zombie went to such lengths to ensure accuracy in other areas. And then there's Sherry Moon Zombie.
Oh, Pookie, you look so continental and suave.
I'll be honest, I'm not even sure what she's trying to do here, but it's not Lily Munster.
So I assume you are Orla?
It's, you can't do this look half-assed. You have to be full in.
Visually, she's way more similar to Joan Marshall than Yvonne DiCarlo. You know, the actress that starred as Herman's wife in the pilot, but was recast because she wasn't working in the role.
Well, it's just one of those unfortunate things.
If that wasn't bad enough, Sherry and Jeff just have absolutely no chemistry together.
Now I know you show business people keep weird hours. Shall we say around midnight? Or is that too early?
Well, I usually have my bubble bath, yummy treat in that time, but yeah, midnight sounds great.
One, because the performances are just so off, and two, because the story just doesn't allow for it. It's so improperly paced that it's hard to decipher any of the characters' motivations.
We're done here.
Here's a brief breakdown of the plot. In a time period I'm not really sure of, Transylvanian vampire the Count lives with his daughter Lily, who's desperately looking for love.
I don't care for that style. I wouldn't want you to be seen dead in a dress like that.
The Count also has a Wolfman's son named Lester, another character that appeared in one episode of the original show, who was indebted to the Count's ex, a gypsy named Zoya. She wants the deed to his castle in order to forgive Lester's debt.
I give you 2 weeks to get the castle. Afterwards, your head is mine.
No, that ain't gonna work.
At the same time, a mad scientist named Dr. Wolfgang plans to reanimate a corpse of assembled body parts, but his assistant Floop steals the brain of a dead comedian, named Shecky von Rathbone, instead of the brain of his physicist brother. Sound familiar? In a plot convenience that could be written by a child, the physicist and Shecky die unrelatedly days apart, and are placed next to each other in the morgue.
Although it is unlikely that anyone but a complete moron, and I do mean complete moron, would ever confuse these two men.
Though it's played off as a joke, this type of lazy coincidence defines all of the major decisions in the film, in place of actual storytelling. Say what you will about the jokes in the original series being cheesy, but they were never this lazy. Here's an example in one of my favorite episodes where Herman and Grandpa are mistaken for bank robbers.
They held up our main office this morning. We may be next.
They the ones with the Halloween masks?
Yes, those hideous disguises are their trademark.
Sure, a lot of it is just pure coincidence, but it takes its time in setup, execution, and payoff.
Maybe you ought to count it while we're waiting for Lily.
Good idea. They might have robbed us.
A similar joke occurs a few scenes later when Wolfgang brings his monster to life, and Floop assigns Herman his iconic name.
Herman Monster.
Not Herman Monster, Herman Munster. Like the cheese.
Griffin. Yeah, Peter Griffin.
Anyway, I guess Shecky's death is a big deal in Transylvania because it warrants them interrupting an Abbott and Costello movie to announce that he died.
Shecky was eaten alive last night by an irate heckler.
And yes, that newscaster is Sherry. I should mention that the 3 of the leads each play multiple roles here, for no other reason than I just don't think they could afford to pay anyone else. Here's a scene where Lily and Herman are on honeymoon in France, and Daniel Roebuck is just there in the background.
This is a bunch of cornball hooey.
When Herman is unveiled on Good Morning Transylvania, featuring a host that's also played by Daniel Roebuck, Lily instantly falls in love with the mere sight of him. For no real reason other than it just needs to happen.
My mother-in-law fell down a wishing well. Boy, I didn't know those things actually worked.
Even on their first meeting, it's just so unclear why they are smitten with each other.
We happen to have a opening sometime in the near future. What night were you thinking about?
Well, maybe tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Hold, please.
Instead of the story showing us why these two characters are so drawn to each other, we get a montage that's supposed to justify it. Also not really justified is the fact that the Count doesn't approve of Herman. But that's a character choice that I think is actually a really fun spin on Grandpa and Herman's relationship.
Lilies are my favorite.
He gives her lilies because her name is Lily. We're dealing with some serious brain power here.
I just wish it went somewhere, but I'll get to that later. On their wedding day, Lester cons Herman into signing over the Count's castle over to Zoya, because that's how deeds work. And then Herman and Lily honeymoon in Paris. Here they venture into the Paris sewers to find Spot, in a scene that I swear is straight out of Ed Wood.
Can you get in there and fight with him? Shake his legs around. Looks like he's killing you. Okay.
Perfect, let's shoot. It's not gonna get any better.
The Count shows up to announce that Herman got them evicted from their home.
Oh, Herman, how could you let Lester drag you into this?
Yeah, now thanks to Swervy Curvy here, we are effectively homeless.
And despite their anger at him, they decide to blindly follow him to Hollywood. All because he sees an episode of House of Zombo, where Zombo conveniently declares,
I am Zombo, the most handsome man in Hollywood, California.
If that guy's a star, imagine what will happen when they get a look at me.
So off to America they go. Although they clearly didn't have the budget or resources to shoot in actual Hollywood, so we get this.
Mr. Wood, where's the cockpit set?
You're standing in it.
Also, when they're on the plane to America, everyone seems to be hiding from them, despite the fact that they're flying Transylvania Air, and everyone we've seen in the Transylvania portion of the movie are also monsters, so why would they be scared of the monsters on the airplane? Shortly after arriving at 1313 Mockingbird Lane, Lester shows up to give Herman a check for his share of an investment.
I made a killing in Vegas after that castle deal. And here's your share!
Despite everything up to that point showing what a chiseler he is.
His dreams are my bank account's worst nightmare.
I know my sweet, adorable Hermie baby wouldn't be dumb enough to get into a lame brain business scheme with Lester. Oh, Herman, how could you let Lester drag you into this?
And that's the end. Seriously.
This is a bunch of cornball hooey.
I at least expected Marilyn to show up or Lily to announce that she's pregnant. Anything to bring the family together again. I mean, it ends with the Count still being dubious of Herman for signing away their Transylvanian home.
It'll be bad enough once they get a look at me. Paparazzi will be everywhere.
Oh, I agree.
Herman never gets the chance to redeem himself, besides accidentally getting rich, which isn't even really warranted. Again, one of the more inspired character choices taken by Rob Zombie here is that the Count disapproves of Herman as Lily's husband. In the original series, the two of them were relatives, but also great friends. Even if Grandpa was continually frustrated with Herman.
We may never get out of here.
Well, it'll teach us a darn good lesson to be more careful next time.
It gave them a great dynamic, though it was also aided by the real-life chemistry between Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis.
Herman Munster has the finest set of pipes in Transylvania.
Herman, they were talking about your circulatory system, not your singing.
Very funny.
It would have been so rewarding in the movie to see the two of them progress from enemies to that friendship.
That's it, Herman. You're our hero!
The story should have given Herman the chance to prove himself to the Count, maybe by saving Lily or something heroic to show his love.
It shows that your heart is in the right place.
Always has been.
Now, I've seen a few people defend the campy style as a fitting homage, but they're honestly missing the point. When you boil it down to its core, this movie represents none of what we love about the Munsters. The heart of the original show came from the fact that the Munsters were an odd-looking family, but they considered themselves to be completely normal and always stuck together. The comedy in the original series came from how the seemingly normal people around them dealt with them being monsters. It was about acceptance and the importance of being true to yourself and your family, which is completely undone in this scene when Herman sees the residents of Mockingbird Lane.
You can be black or yellow or white, it doesn't matter. What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character.
Failing to grasp even the basic essence of what made the Munsters who they were makes me question whether Rob Zombie is even a real fan or just one on the surface.
Quiet!
Rob Zombie seems like a great guy. He always looks out for his friends and writes roles for them. It's clear everyone involved had the best intentions here, but those intentions are muddled by a studio that's not really concerned with quality, and a writer-director that just seems to have no grasp on what was special about these characters. Without Fred Gwynne, Yvonne DiCarlo, or Al Lewis to breathe life into these characters, there just isn't a point in resurrecting them.
But I found one thing out there tonight. I need my family more than show business needs me.
I couldn't help myself. It was my first time in a supermarket.